Hi everybody, welcome back to Mel Did It Herself. And if you're new, hi, I'm Mel. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I wanted to do a little video about kind of how I start my new year and how I plan for success and organization and just kind of like peace of mind in the new year. I don't think the way that I go about it is necessarily like super new or anything super innovative, but it's what works for me, and maybe you'll pick up a tip or two that maybe you aren't doing or you haven't heard of, and if you do, then that's perfect. That's why I'm here. So today is the 28th of December. We're almost done 2020. Oh, thank God. And I just thought like it's a good time to take a minute during the holidays, and I've had an extra long weekend at work, like 4.5 days off. And because we're in the middle of a pandemic, it's been 4.5 days spent at home. So I took, a day to relax and rest. And then I took another day to do, the Christmassy things. And then we took a day to clean and like kind of get things organized and the house back to normal. And then today I'm kind of left with a spare day. So I thought I'm gonna take the day to get my thoughts together for the new year, get everything planned and organized, and kind of lay the groundwork for that. So grab a coffee or a tea. I have my Just Peachy mug here with me today, and sit back and relax, and let's see what we can do to plan for a better 2021. So to start off, every year I kind of plan for the new year. The most efficient way, or the most efficient use of my time at least, is dedicating to an agenda. So I picked up a 2021 agenda. I just got this at HomeSense. It was like $7 or $8, and I'm kind of picky in terms of my agendas. Not as picky as some of my friends are. I have some friends who are very, very specific about what kind of things they look for in an agenda. But for me, the big thing is to have enough space day to day. Like, sometimes you'll have it where they're broken down and there'll be a day on this side, a day on this side. I like to have like a full third of the page per day, per weekday, I should say. Weekends aren't necessarily as important because you can just put like jot notes for events. But I like to have it laid down in that way. And I also appreciate with this one specifically is they have it kind of broken down for each day. So one side just has plain lines, and then the other side is like bulleted. So it's kind of like where you could put your to-do list and then check it off. And I'm very much a list person. I get a lot of sense of accomplishment in my day from being able to check things off a list. Like, even if it's mundane things that I put on a list. For example, if I'm doing laundry, I'll have wash laundry, fold laundry, and put laundry away as 3 separate steps to get accomplished. And those don't necessarily happen all in the same day. Very rarely they all happen in the same day. So I find it feels better to be able to check that off, and I feel like I'm getting stuff done more than just doing laundry and then checking it off like 3 days later when it's finally done and put away and folded and all that stuff. So that works for me. And so the way that I like to do it when I get a new agenda is I sit down and I take my agenda from last year and I go through it, and I basically take any of the big events that consecutively happen year to year. For example, birthdays. So I'll go through and I'll make sure I put all the birthdays that are relevant to me or that, matter in 2021 for me. Maybe there's friends that I don't necessarily see or talk to, not really, like kind of year to year, especially if it's a birthday, I'll still reach out and say hi, even if I'm not super close with that person, but that kind of stuff. Make sure I put those all in here. And then at the end of my agendas, there's usually like a notes page, just kind of for like, writing free thoughts. And that's where I'll always put the upcoming like events and stuff for the following year. So at the end of my 2020 calendar or agenda, I had, upcoming weddings that we have this year, important dates for our wedding we're supposed to happen this year. We'll see how that goes. And anything like if there's any upcoming appointments that are early in the year, for example, the dentist, they like to book, when you're at your last appointment, they'll book you for the next one. So those kinds of things, I'll put those in the end of that agenda. And then those are the things that I'll now put into this agenda on the dates that are applicable. And that helps get me, you know, good to go and ready in that aspect. And then another thing that I like to implement with agendas is making it just like look very clean and tidy. It doesn't always remain that way throughout the year, depending on how I'm using it and how, you know, in a hurry I am when I'm doing it. I don't always just stop and take time at the end of my day to like, you know, quietly and calmly write out my thoughts. Sometimes it's just like, oh, this event, okay, writing it down, like good to go, we're done. So I at least like to start out that way if I can. So I just grabbed like some nice-ish markers, like $4 at the dollar store. And they're like fine tipped colored markers. And I'll go through and choose one color for birthdays to write in, one color for like special events, like weddings and those kinds of things, parties. I'll choose one for like my to-do list, so probably just in black, something that's not too like flashy. Appointments in another. So I just like to kind of color coordinate it like that from the get-go. And then whether I maintain it or not, that's a later Mel problem, but at least I started myself out on that, you know, intentional, neat, organized route. And then I also like to add in kind of like motivational things too into my agenda. It depends on like what the agenda is laid out like. For example, this one already has, when you flip, because there's little tabs for each month. So this one has little quotes. So for January 2020, in a world full of trends, I want to remain a classic. It's a little corny. Some of them might be good, but I like to add my own like little mantras or like motivational kind of quotes or things that, you know, get my juices flowing. So I went through and there's kind of like an overview page at the beginning of every month in this agenda where you can put your January goals, January to-dos, birthdays, other important dates and reminders. And since I like to integrate those throughout, so I see them on the day that it happens or needs to happen, I find that better than flipping to, like, I won't remember to go back to this page, but when I'm flipping to a new month, I will go past this page. And so I'd like to have some like, you know, little tidbits of like motivation to have available there. So for example, in January 2021, I wrote in, find the courage to let go of what you can't change. Just like little things that I keep a notes app on my phone of little like, you know, memes and stuff that I'll see online or captions on Instagram and things like that that really speak to me or I think would be useful for me to keep at top of mind. So I'll write those down and then I like to put those there because for me, when I write things out, I remember it more. So I'm more likely to like remember it later on when I need to have that motivation or when I need that reminder to, you know, don't sweat the small stuff and things like that. So an agenda, like this is my saving grace year round. During the pandemic, I wasn't using it as much and I was definitely letting things slip as a result. So it's a good reminder that I need to keep this no matter how chaotic or unscheduled the rest of my life looks. I need to be sticking to this and, you know, consulting it once a day so that I am not missing the due date for my hydro bill and things like that. Because there was a couple times when I'm like, oh shit, the hydro bill was due 2 days ago and I didn't open the email. And so now I gotta pay interest on it. So there we go. So then another thing too, I just think it's really useful to make sure that that agenda that you get, you can certainly find ones that are cheaper at probably the dollar store and some of them might even be cute too, but I think it's nice to have a good aesthetic with all of my notebooks that I use because I'm very much someone who likes to write things down. And so, you know, this is pink with gold hearts, maybe a little bit like infantile or whatever, but I think it's cute. I think it's nice, Kate Spade-esque. And so the other things that I realized after that, these kind of like, I have definitely a vibe going on in my notebooks. So this is another notebook that I just bought because I'm starting a new job. So for me to write down all my notes and my training stuff in that one. And then this is my wedding notebook that I started in 2018. I should be married by now, but I'm not because of the pandemic. So anyways, they all the colors coordinate. They look nice together when they're stacked out on a table. And so I can keep it handy. I don't have to like shove it away and then maybe forget that they're there. I can keep them out and not have to worry about them not looking as great. So that's awesome, and I love that. So then another thing that I have started doing this year is a gratitude journal. And it sounds super corny, I'm fully aware, but it has been really useful for me throughout the pandemic. Just with like the mundane day-to-day, I'm working from home. I've been working from home since, well, I've been home since mid-March and working from home since early April, because I had just at the end of the kind of freedom, I had gone on vacation, and then COVID was in our city when we got here, so we had to self-quarantine and yada yada. So anyways, so it's been almost a year, well, like 9 months that I've been working from home and at home pretty much every single day. So day-to-day things can look very, 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 very much the same. And some days that's great and I'm happy for it, and some days I'm like going crazy because of it. So also with all the like negativity in the world and stuff, I was just feeling very like heavy and a lot of negativity and just like angry at times. And I'm like, what is this? This isn't me. So I was like, what's gonna make me focus on the positive, on the, you know, the bright side of things and stuff. So I started doing what turned into a gratitude journal. And I didn't really have a word for it at the time necessarily, but I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna write down the like good things in the day. I'm gonna, you know, focus on, even if it's like a shit ass day, I'm gonna be like, you know what, the sun came out for 20 minutes though, or I got this accomplished, or I had this really good interaction with a friend, or someone reached out to me that I haven't talked to in a long time and that meant a lot to me, or whatever. So it was a good way for me to kind of like change my outlook on things, and to, instead of like reeling in the negativity and talking endlessly to everyone else and thinking about coronavirus and all that crap, I was just like taking a moment to focus on the good things that happened in a day instead of ranting about the bad or annoying or frustrating things that happened in the day. And that was a really good way for me to switch my outlook about things, and I found it really useful. So now, I started this I think in like June, and so now I can look back and I have, you know, X amount of pages of just great things that happened in my year. And so I'm gonna continue to implement this. I can kind of track the dates. I don't put a date in every time I input into it, and definitely don't write in it every single day, but I try at least every couple of days to open it up. And even if I don't go to it with something to write in it, even just looking back on the past few things, it will kind of like incite my brain to think of other good things that have since happened. So that's really nice. So anytime there's like a certain event that happened, I'll write the date. So, you know, on this date, had a FaceTime date with like some of my girlfriends, and, you know, got to meet my, like one of my best friend's babies virtually, and, you know, those kinds of little things that are nice, like milestone dates to have in there. And then that will then let me know what date I'm at in this book too, if this continues, because I probably only filled it maybe like 10 pages because I write really small. So if this, excuse me, if this notebook lasts, you know, a couple of years, then I'll be able to kind of like track the dates that way. So I find that really useful. You might find it useful too. Not a lot of people, or not everyone I should say, is a pen and paper type of person. For me, that's the way I will remember to, if I see this physical thing, I'll remember to do it. And then I also just like a quiet minute. I try and, you know, limit my screen time. Sometimes I'm more intentional about it than others, but it's a good way to do that, and just take a quiet minute with a coffee and just reflect. You know, I'm not super great at journaling, like full on journaling, like Dear Diary, this is what happened in my day, or this is what's going on. I do enjoy writing, so maybe there's a correlation there. Just kind of like creative writing and stuff has always been an interest of mine since I was young. But I found, yeah, that this is working for me. So I'm going to continue to do it, and maybe it could work for you too. So another thing that I do nearing the end of a year or at the beginning of a new year is I set goals, rough goals. And I don't always refer back to those throughout the year, like daily, or have them sitting up somewhere that I see them, which for some people might be needed for them to continue to work towards them. For me, once I take some time to sit down and reflect on what I want to achieve or where I want to go or what I'm hoping to do, that's usually, I've found, good enough for me. And then I'll kind of, as I think about it throughout the year, maybe once or twice in the year, I'll be like, oh yeah, like, let me look back on those goals if I'm like in my Google Drive kind of thing. And so that's useful too. And it's kind of nice because then I know I'm not necessarily actively staring at a goal and just trying to meet that goal, but to look back and be like, hey, I achieved that. And I wasn't necessarily like keeping it top of mind and having it stress me out all the time, but I did achieve it and I did work towards it. That's always a really nice feeling. And for the large majority of the goals that I set, because I try and be realistic in setting them, I am able to look back and say that and then check them off on my little, you know, electronically check them off. So that's nice too. So the way that I do it, I've done it this way since 2016. And I know that because I do it on my Google Drive and I keep them there because I think it's really fun to be able to look back like long term. We're going into 2021 and I can look back 5 years ago, where were my goals at in all of these different categories that I'm gonna go through. And that's really useful for me too. So I do it on Google Drive. I just make a Google like Word equivalent document and I call it 2021 goals. And I have 2 sections, if you will, 6-month and 12-month. And this was a method that I used to work in a real estate office, and one of the agents there had talked about that this is how he did his goal setting every year. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna try it out for 1 year. And I found it was really useful for me. And it's somewhere that I don't necessarily always look back on it, but I can look back if I want to because it's in my Google Drive. So 6-month goals and 12-month goals, 1-year goals. And then within each section, I have 4 categories: family/friends, work, financial, oh sorry, there's 5, spiritual/well-being, and personal. So within each category, I try to do 1 to 2, but sometimes there's more. If there's a goal that I know that I have and it's more than that, more than the 1 or 2, I'll put it in there for sure. But if I'm having my brain just reset. If I'm struggling to like think of stuff, I'll try and at least think of like 2, sometimes only 1 per category. And then at least there's something that I'm working towards. So under these categories, so let's start with work. So some examples of my work ones have been to complete a certain type of training. I've wanted to do project management training, so that was on my goals from last year, to have that under my belt, or it might be gain experience in this, like doing strategic planning or something like that. So I would seek out opportunities that would allow me to do that, different committees, work groups, that kind of thing. Sometimes I've set like financial goals in the terms of gain a new position that earns blank K per year, like whatever salary I'm wanting to like bump myself up to. And those kind of, I definitely don't see it as a failure if I don't achieve that, but it is nice in looking back, and knock on wood, every year that I've set one like that, I have looked back and I have achieved that. So that's awesome because I'm still newer in my career. So there's been a lot of forward momentum, which is nice. But it's just because, you know, as I gain the experience, I still have that drive. So we'll see if that slows down. But so those are the kinds of things that I might put under work. Under financial, it's often in regards to how much I want to have saved. So I've said, you know, by this point in time, I want to have X amount of thousands of dollars in my savings account, or as a goal, one time I had that I want to be making regular contributions to my TFSA. So there's no monetary amount set there. It's just kind of that I want to be making consistent payments to that. So whether that's $20 every time, but I'm consistently doing that, you know, once a month or something, that would mean that I'm reaching that goal, because I'm just putting money into there that is going to be gaining some sort of interest or whatever, like investments, those kinds of things. So then under friends and family, that can kind of differ. I've had things where I've put, you know, host this couple that we're friends with, but we haven't seen in quite a long time, and we don't always make the effort to like reach out to them, host them for dinner, like something just like basic, and I could text them tomorrow and set that up and it would be over with. Or I've had, you know, more like in-depth ones, like I want to resolve this like long conflict that I've had with this person, and I want that to be off my conscience, and, you know, not a thing that I ever have to deal with, kind of, again, like I don't want this to be a thing, so it'll be like resolve this conflict and have us sit down and talk this out with this person. Or I used to do like, because my parents live about 5 hours away from where I live here, so I used to put like, you know, visit home 4 times a year or whatever that would be, just to make sure that I'm being aware of how often I'm visiting home and things like that, and seeing my parents. Different things like that. It could be honestly anything, or something that you want to do, maybe family vacation or things like that. So under friends and family, up for interpretation. Spiritual and well-being, I have had also change. A lot of the time it's about consistency for me, because I'm really bad with consistency. So it'll be, you know, sweat 3 times a week. And I like to put it that way, as opposed to work out or, you know, lose X amount of pounds or whatever. I'm kind of fine where I am in like how much I weigh and what my body's like looking like, but I really care about what my body's feeling like these days as I get older. So I want to feel energized. I want to feel healthy. I want to have vitality, you know, those kinds of things. And on the days that I do sweat, whatever that sweating looks like, going for a run, you know, lifting weights, doing cardio, those kinds of things, I know that my body feels better those days. So that's a goal that I've had. And spiritually, it could be, you know, if there's been times when I've wanted to get more connected to my heritage and stuff. So getting involved in doing powwows and round dances and things like that have been things that have been on my spiritual and well-being kind of goals in the past. And then there's personal goals. So those could be really anything that doesn't apply to the other categories, or maybe it does apply to the other categories, but you want to plop it there. So that could be things like, this year I had as a goal to get married, and I didn't achieve that, but there's things that are out of your control. So you have to keep that in mind when you're setting goals as well. Personal could be, you know, for example, this year, one of my personal goals, which wasn't even necessarily a goal, but I put it as there with a question mark at the end, was microblading, because I knew it was something that I was interested in. And this was the year that I was kind of more financially sound, and it would maybe be able to be an option. And I did end up getting it. So I also did a video about that. If you didn't see it, you can go back. It's another kind of different than the rest of my videos on this channel, but I went in depth about my microblading journey. And so that was something that I put under the personal things. It doesn't really apply anywhere else. It's just kind of for me, but something that was important to me. So other things that could be personal, I've had as one to start doing therapy, to do, I can't remember if this went under my well-being or my personal one, but to do 2 things that really push my body that are, I forget how I worded it, but basically like one of the things that I did to achieve that the 1 year was doing a mud hero race. So kind of like a Spartan race, but like less intense. So that was one thing that was different that I'd never tried before, and it pushed my body, and it felt really rewarding to achieve that. So things like that. So fill those in for the 6-month and then the 1 year marks. And then, you can look back at it as much as you want. You can print it out, put it somewhere that you're going to see it every day, on your mirror in the bathroom, on your fridge, something like that. If you want, if you're someone that likes to see it often, to manifest it and to, you know, keep it at top of mind, then do whatever works for you. Put it as your background on your phone. Like there's so many options, and so many creative ways, so many apps that will also help you like achieve those if you need a little bit of extra support other than just writing it down. And then the last way that I get ready for the new year and having clarity and organized and peace of mind and like a, you know, a calm mind is by cleaning my surroundings and making sure that everything is intentional and, well, I shouldn't say intentional, but beautiful or intentional, how about that? So I take the opportunity when I'm taking down all the Christmas decorations to go through and do a deep clean of the house, and that can look whatever you want it to look like. I like to get on the floor and wipe the floorboards and, you know, all the things. I go like overboard, but whatever you need to do to make you feel like the house is clean, and, you know, clean the bathrooms and those kinds of things. Take the time in between the holidays when you might have some time off, you know, if your schedule allows. I don't have kids running around and things like that to worry about, so I probably have a little bit more spare time than some of you, but I find it really useful just to, you know, have a clean area, clean space, nothing to worry about, nothing on my to-do list that's house related that needs to get done imminently. I know that I've cleaned everything. And then if you need to, go through and declutter. Look into the Marie Kondo method, look into Get Tidy on Netflix, or what's it called? There's like so many specials on Netflix that can help you to declutter, organize, help with your storage, those kinds of things, because I totally believe that a clean, organized space leads to a clean, organized mind. And I think you can see a lot of correlation sometimes in the people who just have an overwhelming space full of stuff, and you can kind of feel that in their energy, and you can tell that that's kind of what they're going through mentally too, and they just need to get on top of it. So I try to make a very concerted effort to make sure that I'm doing that consistently throughout the year. I do it a couple of times just to make sure, you know, is there anything here we need to get rid of, anything that can be reorganized. I try and keep things organized, but sometimes you just need to kind of like take everything out and reorganize it, and maybe there's a way that's going to work for you now that's different and all that good stuff. So just take some time for you, for your year, to set it off on a good foot. Yeah, it's been a long year. It's been a hard year, and you deserve it. So take the time now, set yourself up for success, and then whatever follows in this year, you know, at least you gave it a good damn try. So I hope this gave you some sort of inspiration, some sort of motivation to start your off right. If you aren't already subscribed, I'd love if you would subscribe below as well. I'm on Instagram, and that's kind of where I'm most active. It's at MelDidItHerself, and I do a lot of furniture flips and DIY projects and just kind of your everyday stuff. I like to make muffins and share recipes and all that stuff. If you ever have a recommendation for another video too, feel free to comment below. I'm always looking for ideas, and one of my goals this year is to post here more consistently, because I like to think that I have some okay things to say. So thank you so much for being here, guys. Cheers to 2021. Here's hoping it's better than this one. And thank you so much for being here. We'll talk to you soon. Bye. Happy New Year.